Welcome everybody to the Legacy League second round pregame show. We have 16 teams remaining. There will be 8 by the end of the night, and this is brought to you by Zach's Frozen Yogurt, alongside Connor, Greg, and Stuckey. I'm Ryan. So we're going to go through all the games, but first, our brackets were released yesterday on Twitter, Legacy_Leagues, if you want to check them out. All 4 of us have picked different champions, so it should be an interesting playoff. In terms of the regular season pick'em standings, we're sitting in the order that you see right here, so nothing else needs to be said. But guys, a little bit of why you picked the champions that you picked, that you think will be on top of the Legacy Leagues. A week from tomorrow, the champion will be crowned. Just real quick, I'm a big Team Moose guy. They have an incredible defense. They barely ever miss any shots. That's really all I can ask for in a team. But Connor, start us off. Like I said, we all have different champions.
Well, actually, Stuckey flip-flopped and went back to the Monstars, so I think me and Stuck are actually...
Oh, yeah, I forgot Stuckey went against what he said.
Yeah, so me and Stuckey are both on the Monstars, and I like the Monstars with their depth that they've added. I thought that Mike Cody showing up at the end of the season was going to, foreshadow what we might see in the playoffs. I know he's a big-time performer on the big stage. And even his brother Brett and Ty Alston off the bench, those are really good players that, you don't really get a lot of spotlight on them because they're surrounded by guys like Greg Langston and Reggie Stewart and Eric Langston. So I think that they're defending champions also, which I forgot to mention. These guys have championship pedigree that is established. So put everything together, and I think they have a recipe that can really work and get them some postseason success.
Greg, you had No Limit?
I mean, do you want to let Stuckey?
Yeah, Stuckey, why don't you? Well, first of all, you changed your mind.
Well,
What's
let me just
that?
explain why I changed. Because I picked the Brotherhood initially because I thought they were going to turn it around. They were going to get that fire back under them. But even in their wins, they don't look that good to me. And they look like they're still struggling. They still look like they still need help from those players on the bench. And I think them and No Limit or them having to play a team like No Limit for a second time, it won't turn out too well for them. But I'm going with the Monstars, and I switched with with the Monstars because the Langston brothers are huge physical players. Reggie Stewart, Greg, and Reggie, 2 All-Stars. And when these guys start to play and they start playing physical basketball, not a lot of guys want to play with them. And I think with going against a team like, they match up very well against a team like No Limit, another team that's also deep. But these guys, like Connor mentioned earlier, some of those guys coming off the bench for the Monstars, so they can match up with any team as far as depth and starters. So that's why I think we went back to the Monstars.
All right, and Greg, you actually did go with No Limit, so why do you think they would stack up against a team like the Monstars or anyone else in the Legacy Leagues?
I mean, I think they stack up very well. I mean, Stuckey said the Monstars and No Limit have a lot of depth. And, I mean, a lot of the reason I'm picking No Limit is I remember the first year we ever had this, they lost to the Brotherhood. And then they got upset by Run TMC, and then they lost again. And I feel like there's something about motivation that really, speaks a lot to. And I feel like they're the hungriest team out there. They don't just want to win. They want to show to everyone in the league that when we make the finals, we're going to get a ring. And I just think there's something extra in them. With Terrell, Howie, Ronte, and Davin now, I mean, they've been playing this league for 3 years, but they added Ty Sands, who I think's really one of the most underrated players in this league. Rashawn Hendricks is a defensive beast. He comes off the bench and does everything you need. And I didn't even mention Jalen Graham, who's arguably the best player in this league. So when it comes down to it, I'm picking them because I just think they're the most motivated, and they have had one thing on their mind for about 4 years now, and that's a Legacy League championship.
All right, so 4 brackets and 3 different champions picked, but all of our picks will have to get through this second round tonight if any of us are going to be right. So let's get started with the games. Again, Legacy_Leagues if you want to check out the brackets. So we'll start going through these games. We have 8-seeded Sportslook at 7 o'clock against 9-seeded STP. Sportslook seeded higher, but STP spanked them last week by, I think it was almost 50 points. And again, for a lot of that game, not only was Sportslook without Brian Acevedo, but they were without another player on the court. So they were only playing with 3 guys. So, Connor, you went with Sportslook. Did we all pick Sportslook?
Yeah. We did.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so despite a convincing loss, we still all went with Sportslook, probably banking on the fact that their players are going to show up. But Connor, what's the key in this game, and why do you like Sportslook?
Yeah, like you basically just said, they just need their guys to show up, and Acevedo needs to keep his temper. Obviously we know he's a very passionate player. He gets involved in the game and sometimes can do some things that won't benefit his team, like getting some technical fouls and getting thrown out of the game. He needs to keep his composure. He's one of the best players in this league when he's playing at his best. So I think that he needs to stay calm, be the floor general for his team, and guys like Dan Kokoros, who wasn't even there last week, is a key player. He's a stretch big who can really give a presence for his team on both sides of the floor. So he's going to show up. He's going to add a different presence for them. And Terrell Wright's going to show up and give you some 3 balls, which he's become accustomed to doing. So I think you put the whole recipe together. SCP did beat them handily, obviously, because they were so damaged in terms of their lineup. But I think if they put all their pieces together, I do think Sportsbook, is that team. They've been higher in the power rankings for a majority of the season. So, I think we all agree that Sportsbook's a more well-rounded team.
And it will be interesting to see how the officiating goes in the playoffs, because I would figure you might see a little more slack in terms of talking back just because it's the playoffs, but we'll see. That'll be an interesting storyline to follow. Now we have the second-seeded No Limit, Greg's championship pick. They have to get through Stranger Danger, who had a thrilling overtime win in the first round against the Double Dribblers. Stuckey, why don't you go into this one and tell us what the key to the game is here?
I mean, whenever you say a team like Stranger Danger, who has talent on their team that can play, I don't know, perhaps be started somewhere else, and whenever you say it was a thrilling overtime win for them against a team like the Double Dribblers, that I take all my confidence out of Stranger Danger when they're going against a team on the caliber of No Limit, because Stranger Danger, the Double Dribblers can't even play on the same floor as No Limit in a sense, you know what I'm saying? So whenever Stranger Danger is going to get it right, maybe it's not this season, maybe it's next season, whenever they get it right and they are playing as a team for the entire 40 minutes, that's when they'll be able to beat the higher caliber teams. But until then, like tonight, Steve Eccles has to come out and he has to be a general, a true floor general, and he has to spread the ball out, distribute the ball, as well as play defense and get key steals and key turnovers against guys like Howie Miller and Terrell Vargas, who were all-stars this year, and guys like Jalen Graham, who didn't make the all-star team this year, but tremendous player, arguably one of the best players in the league. So whenever you have players like that on the other side, and you have a team like Stranger Danger, who, I don't know, failed to watch our post-game and pre-game shows about closing out games, I'm taking No Limit all day.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot to take down a team like No Limit. Now, at 8 o'clock, we have one that's a little higher in terms of upset alert. 5-seeded Flint Tropics, 12th seed Redemption. It's only fitting these are the seed numbers, because it seems like it's always those 5-12s in March Madness where the upset levels are high. But and it's only because there's no Mike Bizzuto, the anchor of the Flint Tropics. He's not going to be there. So a trendy upset pick. Greg, what's the key to the game? And can the Flint Tropics overcome the absence of their leader?
Well, I actually went Flint. I trust him. Let's get tropical. No Mike B, so you lose 21 points per game. I mean, that's huge. About 9 rebounds a game. I mean, he's a physical presence. He's their best player. He's a top 10 player in this league. I mean, you know what you're going to get when you lose him. But I like to focus on the other things. Ryan Caggiano stepped up a few weeks ago, dropped, I think, 28 points. He needs to stay hot from 3. Matt Surr needs to get more than his 11 points per game and 8 rebounds. He needs to control the paint. They need to shoot well from 3. If they can shoot well from 3 against Redemption, they need to make Redemption play their game. The brilliant thing about Redemption is Scott Cochard just leads the team and leads them, and just when they're out there, you never worry. Are they in control? Are they arguing? They're always in the zone. They're always focused on the game that is in front of them. And I think Dom Migliaro is really a difference maker. If he goes off tonight, it's going to be a long night for Flint. But if Flint can just play their game and not worry about the loss of Mike Bizzuto, then I think they'll be fine.
And they certainly are a deep team, just a tough time to lose their leader, especially because I think we can all say if they had Bizzuto, they could have a case for making the championship this year. But unfortunately, they're without Bizzuto. We'll see what happens. Now we get to the 3rd-seeded Brotherhood, 8 o'clock tonight against Lob 203. And Lob had all kinds of problems against Sometimes Y in the first round, at least in the first half until Eric Singleton went crazy. They'll definitely need him for both halves against a team like the Brotherhood. So, Greg, what's the key to this game? Does Lob have a chance?
I mean, the key always with Lob is Eric Singleton, but, I mean, if you really want to break it down, it's their depth. Cody DiLeonardo is a phenomenal player. He's great defensively and rebounding. He's awesome. John Brolé, another veteran in this league, he's a great player, but they just need to step up. I mean, we've had the same conversation each week. Someone else than Eric Singleton, and it just keeps being him over and over again. And now you got to go up against Mike Davis and Russ Payton, but forget about them. It's the other players. Jonathan Robles, I don't know who on Lob 203 is going to guard him or try to shut him down. I mean, he against Central Chocolate, I think it was week 2, he had 28, he missed 3 shots. I just see so many mismatches in this game. I don't think Lab 203 can really match up well against them.
Yeah, speaking of not matching up well, we have the top-seeded Monstars at 9 o'clock going against a slightly smaller Flight Club team at the 16th seed. So, Stucky, keys to the game, you can simply just say blowout and we'll carry on.
You said slightly undersized Flight Club team.
I was trying to be nice.
When you look on one end of the court at the Monstars and you look on the other end of the floor for the Flight Club, you can obviously there's a tremendous age difference, right? We on Monstars side we got men, and on the Flight Club side we still have boys, right? And when you got a team like the Monstars and the Langston brothers who are true dominant men in this league, and they're gonna throw their body weight around, and they know how to use that weight, and they know how to intimidate you under the basket, and they know exactly how to play this game of basketball. And they feed off each other. When Reggie starts to get involved, you know what I mean? He's a great person to run at the top to bring those guards out to him, and then once you have, I'll take a Langston brother against any big on Flight Club any day. So it's easy to say that Monstars is going to run away with this one, but I hope to see Flight Club come out. You know, Brandon Gutierrez had a great season, and those young guys, you know what I mean, I'll look for them to have fun tonight, but a win I don't think they'll come by, but they'll have a lot of fun.
All right, 9 o'clock as well. We have my championship team, Team Moose, the 4th seed, going against the 13th seeded Run TMC team. Now, TMC had a bit of a slow first quarter against Fry Time, but then they really turned on the switch and blew them out of the water. So now they get a much tougher opponent, especially defensively. So, Greg, pretty sure you have an upset here, so why don't you get into the keys to the game, why you think TMC...
Well, first, Team Moose just needs to play their game smart, not too many turnovers, not miss a lot of shots, and they won't lose this game. As far as Run TMC and why I picked them, it's more of just, I'm taking a risk. It's March Madness, just like college, there's going to be upsets, but John Rulin and Will Hudson need to step up. They need to just control the game. I mean, John's averaging 14 points per game. Will Hudson's averaging 17. Maybe if they can add 5, 10 more this game. Maybe Joey and Matt Zacco hit a few threes. Jamal and Seabrook really need to control the pace of the game. But in the end, Run TMC needs to play their game and force Moose to shoot the ball. Shoot the ball. Not get inside. If they go inside against Moose, it's going to be a long day for them, and I don't see an upset happening.
That's what's so hard about Team Moose. No matter how much you pressure them, they don't seem to shy away from their game. But we'll see what happens. Going to need some three-pointers to pull off an upset. Might see some three-pointers in this 10 o'clock game, Central Chocolate and Goon Squad. Goon Squad played TMC the other week, and it was a three-point shootout over there. Now you have a really high-scoring team in Central Chocolate, led by Carmine Santarelli. I'd say this is one of the most compelling first-round matchups.
Yeah.
So, Connor, what do you think are the keys to this game?
I think it's a marquee matchup down low between two of what's been the best rebounders this year. We got Troy Brunson for Central Chocolate versus Matt Marconi on Goon Squad down low. It's going to be a great battle. What I love about Marconi's game this year is that he's been a force down low rebounding, and he's also leading his team in three-point percentage and three-point shot attempts. He's shooting over 40% from three, which is just insane for somebody who does what he does for his team. He's not a sharpshooter like a lot of these kids are in this league who still don't even shoot 40%, and that's not even his main role, and he is. So I really like what Marconi's doing as sort of like a stretch big this year. But I think it's going to be the guards of Central Chocolate that are going to propel Goon Squad propel Central Chocolate past Goon Squad tonight. I think it's going to be Nick and Carmine, obviously, and then if Aaron Samuel comes out and gives you what he gave last week, it's just going to be a really tough time for Goon Squad to handle all the offensive weapons that Central has. I think they're a lot more deep, but I really do like Massaro and Marconi. I just don't think that they have enough to keep up with Central, especially if you see them at their best with the playoffs coming up.
All right, so final game of the night, 6-seeded Throne, a big question mark hanging over this game as Joe Bacciello, they're saying, is a game-time decision, which could be a huge swing in this game. They have the 11th-seeded Bad Boys. So, Connor, we'll go to you again. Keys to this game, besides Joe Bacciello actually being there, are there any other keys that can decide this one?
Yeah, well, if Bacciello shows up, the Throne are clear favorites. They beat the Bad Boys earlier in the year with no Bacciello, so the Bad Boys need to focus on stopping those guys. They couldn't beat the Throne without Bacciello. They need to focus first and foremost on stopping guys like Stenson Jean-Baptiste and Rob Dupree and in Jacobson Jean-Baptiste, Stenson's brother, who are both having great years. I think Stenson's averaging a double-double on the season, and Jacobson's averaging over 18 points a game and over 6 rebounds a game. So I think that they're both a dynamic duo on the court. And they need to stop Jalen Eggleston and Trey Blake and Destin Simmons from going off. Destin's an all-star this year. He's one of the best shooters in the league. Trey has emerged as one of the best scorers from literally anywhere on the court. And Jalen's a great ball distributor that's going to get the ball to these guys. So they need to key in on all three of those guys and give them a sound defensive pressure, because if they don't, I can actually see the Bad Boys upsetting in this matchup, especially if Bacciello doesn't show up.
All right, so there you have it. Let the madness begin at 7 o'clock, and I'm sure a lot of our brackets will be busted early on.
Yep.
And just, I'll ask real quick before we close, are there any picks that you've made, and maybe once you submitted them to the commish, Joey, over there, you immediately had a change of heart, or something that you wish you picked differently, just so maybe you have an excuse when your pick becomes wrong?
I know I had one. Honestly, I don't see it on my paper right now, but yeah, I can't remember. I do remember looking at my bracket, though, and looking at a matchup and saying, wow, I should have picked the other one, but...
That's a very hard question. Maybe I should have taken Flint over TMC if they do upset, but I'm going to go Goon Squad over Central, just because I could see Goon Squad playing a very good game.
That's
Matt
gonna be a good
Marconi
game.
taking over down low, and I mean, Central does have experience with Carmine, but a lot of their players are new to this league, and Goon Squad's been in these moments. Matt Marconi hit I think, game-tying, game-winning shot in triple overtime in a playoff game, so I maybe would have gone Goon Squad.
I'm going to go to the Flint and the Redemption game, actually. I picked Redemption on my bracket, but I don't know. Flint, for some reason, when I went against Flint, I said, wow, I didn't get Tropical, and I think this might be a mistake. Because those guys, they just have fun when they out there playing basketball. And when
That's
you
a deep team.
Yeah, and when they out there having fun playing basketball, man, it's hard to stop those guys. So, man, I started thinking like, I should have went Tropical, but hopefully Redemption comes through and doesn't bust my bracket, eh?
Yeah, I didn't feel so great about picking that one. I just felt like I needed an upset. But, there's something about submitting your bracket and realizing, like, wow, I just picked a team that lost by the team they're going to be playing by over 50 points last week. That's kind of how I felt with the Sportslook STP game.
Yeah.
And I know they didn't have a lot of people, but who's to say that they are going to have everyone back this week? So I would pick that one that I'm feeling the shakiest about. So we'll find out about that one quick, because that's the first game of the night. But 2 games going on every hour from 7 to 10 tonight, so be there to check it out. Twitter and Snapchat Legacy_Leagues, and we'll see you for the post game, and enjoy the playoffs.